Hi everyone, I'm Darlene Swaffar. I just want to get to this. We need to talk about this case. This is sitting in the Supreme Court. It's 22-380, and it's a case that's brought by Brunson versus 388 respondents. So let's get right into it. When I read this, I almost cried tears of joy. This action is against 388 federal officers and their official capacities, which include the illegitimate President Joseph Robinette Biden, Vice President Kamala Harris, Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi, and former Vice President Michael Richard Pence. All the respondents, there's 388 named altogether, have taken a required oath of office to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against enemies, foreign and domestic. And as such, they're liable for consequences when they violate their oath of office. The respondents were properly warned and were requested to make an investigation into the highly covert, swift, and powerful enemy seeking to destroy the Constitution and the United States. Respondents purposely thwarted all efforts to investigate this, whereupon this enemy was not checked or investigated. Therefore, the respondents adhered to the enemy. And what did they do? Well, basically, on January 6, 2021, the 117th Congress held a proceeding and debate in Washington, D.C., and over 100 members of the U.S. Congress claimed factual evidence that the said election was rigged, and the refusal of the respondents to investigate this congressional claim, which are now they're considered the enemy, is an act of treason. And they also cite the case that it was American Bush versus City of Salt Lake, Utah. It states that the United States Constitution, along with the state constitutions, do not grant rights to the people. That's true, because the rights of the people come from God, the Almighty, the Creator, who bestowed these inalienable rights to us. And so the Constitution is in place to protect those rights. I'm going to go into something in a little bit that actually supersedes some of this information in this claim. And now, the purpose of the Constitution was written to protect our rights. It states that here. It also cites quite a bit of different articles and amendments of the Constitution. And it also talks about the remedy. And the remedy is remove all these treasonous traitors. They didn't perform their duties, which is true, because if you think about it, in corporate America, when you don't perform your job, you get fired. Well, we have the right to redress our government of our grievances. And when we have elected officials that don't perform their job, they need to be removed from office. And that's what this claim is requesting. It's also saying that the Supreme Court has the authority that they can go ahead and swear in the duly elected president, which would be Donald J. Trump. Let all the heads explode on that one. And in addition to that, this case cites a couple of doctrines. It talks about the doctrine of object principle of justice and the doctrine of equitable maxim. It's asking for the court to get rid of the doctrine of equitable maxim, because that in itself is saying that it's killing the opportunity for the court to properly perform in their function and their capacity, and to focus more on the doctrine of object principle of justice. It's asking for, it's basically stating also, why would you grant this petition? Well, when the allegations of a rigged election came forward and the respondents had a duty under the law to investigate it, they didn't. So they should be removed from office. An honest and fair election can only be supported by legal votes that's sacred. I want to talk about the doctrine of the lesser magistrates. I implore everyone watching this video to go to Amazon and request a copy of this book. Order a copy of this book. Have you, your family, and your children read this book. What does it say? We are all magistrates. We all have a duty as citizens to protect our God-given rights, to protect our God-given rights that were bestowed on our children and for future generations. And so this lawsuit was brought on by brothers, average everyday Americans. They're not attorneys, okay? They found what the process was, what the guidelines were, and how to get their lawsuit to the Supreme Court, okay? And they worked on this for 2 years. We all have that same responsibility to protect our God-given rights. And what this book explains is that the law of the land is God's law. God's law is supreme. The laws of the Constitution, all that does is protect God's law. That's a man law. Any man-made laws that do not adhere to God's laws should be void, because our rights come from God. God's law is first, okay? Second is the Constitution, even though that is the law of the land, but it's God's law that is supreme and comes first. So this is an amazing book. I recommend, it's a very quick read. It's not very thick at all. And I recommend that every single person in our United States start looking into the elected officials, and when they start overreaching their authority and creating unlawful mandates and unlawful laws, we should be filing lawsuits like this. We should first write a demand letter. If they don't comply with the demand letter, we should be filing lawsuits with the local court system, asking for them to be removed for failure to performing their responsibilities. And if we did that nationwide, we'd finally be able to take our country back. We would get rid of all the unscrupulous, unlawful, unconstitutional, corrupt individuals that have been infiltrating every fabric, every agency, every county government, school board, mayors, state representatives, state senators, all the way to the highest level, and even judges. There's so many corrupt judges out there. We need to remove all these individuals and install people that will protect and defend the Constitution of the United States. And that is how we're going to take back our country. So I want to ask for God I want to pray for you, and I want to ask for God to bless you and to bless our great nation. And I think together we can finally restore the glory that we all deserve and for this country to have. Thank you, everyone, and thank you for listening in.